Hey guys, Tina here. Welcome to my November wrap-up. As you will see from the video, this month was a bit chaotic. I definitely didn't stick to my TBR. I just wasn't in the mood to read those books, and I didn't try to read any epic fantasy at all, even though that's what I was planning to do. But yeah, it was really a weird month. I didn't feel like reading anything much, and I just, picked up a book and put it down, and picked up a book and put it down. So what you will get is a lot of, new adult romance and some cute contemporaries. And actually, despite, this month being sort of weird reading-wise, I found two books that I really loved, and I just really love them. They're one of my favorites of this year, and yes, I'm really happy that I found them and read them and enjoyed them as much as I did, because the rest of the month was like so, and yeah, but let me leave you with this and enjoy the rest of the video. I finished reading the Royals Trilogy by Erin, which consists of Paper Princess, Broken Prince, and Twisted Palace. This is a story of Ella Harper, who lives on her own since her mother has passed away. She never knew her father, so he was never in the picture. But now that her mother has died, she's living on her own, and she's stripping to make some money. She wants to, finish high school and then go to college to make a better life for herself. And at this point, Callum Royal finds her. He claims to be her father's best friend, and since her father has passed away as well, he is now her guardian, and he wants her to move across country with him to live with him and his 5 sons in this huge mansion. She's reluctant to do that because she has never met this guy before, but still, he basically kidnaps her, and the story picks up from there. I have a video about this trilogy up on my channel, so I will be linking it. I do not want to make this video too long here, so do go check that video out if you want to learn more about this trilogy. I finished reading 2 books from the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. The first book that I read was The Deal, and it tells the story of Hannah, who is an arts major at college, and she fancies this popular jock, but doesn't really know how to approach him. She was raped years back, and she has a bit of a trouble when it comes to guys and dealing with them. And then we have Garrett, who is a hockey jock, and he's pretty popular. He doesn't have those kind of problems, but he wants to keep up his GPA, and he basically asks Hannah if she would tutor him, and she actually at first does not want to do it, but then they come to an understanding, that she will tutor him and he will help her get this guy's attention. And then the second book out of the series that I read is called The Score, and it's actually book 3 in the series, and it tells the story of Elle, who is Hannah's best friend, and she has recently broken up with her long-term boyfriend, and because she has the tendency to take him back, because they have done this a few times, she decides to spend the weekend off campus at the house where Hannah's boyfriend, Garrett, and a bunch of his hockey friends live. And there she, he's confronted by Dean, who is this popular jock as well. He's comes from a rich family. He has a pretty charmed life. He's pretty easygoing. Basically, he doesn't take life too seriously, and whatever he wants basically happens. And he sleeps around. He doesn't want to have a girlfriend, and they, against Ellie's better judgment, get drunk and sleep together. And afterwards, she's adamant not to have anything more to do with him, but he really starts pursuing her. I really enjoyed these 2 books. I actually have a video again about them. If you want to learn, hear some more of my thoughts, please do go check it out. I finished reading Bully by Penelope Douglas. This is a story of this teenage girl whose name I have already forgotten, and basically she used to be best friends with this boy that lives next door to her, but then one summer he went away, and when he came back he started bullying her, and that hasn't stopped since. Basically he's making her life miserable, he's harassing her, turning people away from her, basically, nobody wants to date her, nobody wants to be, her friend and things like that. And then she goes away for 1 year, and when she comes back, she has decided not to, stand for that anymore, not to, you know, she just decides to fight back, and we get to see how that happens, how that works, and at the end, things sort of get resolved. Honestly, I don't really like to, you know, bash books, because I like to, you know, promote the ones that I like and not talk about the ones that I don't. But sadly, I really didn't like this book. Firstly, the writing was not all that great. And just the story behind all of this is just so uninspiring, and there's really nothing positive, I think, that you can take away from this book. Yes, they sort of, you know, resolve the reasons why he was being this mean to her, and they actually get together, which I didn't approve. I didn't like that at all. You know, yeah, sort of, I understand why he felt the way he did and why he did it, but seriously, no matter what the reason is, there's never a good enough reason to bully anyone. And just to think that she just took it and then you know, fell in love with him and whatever, it was just... Sadly, this is not a book that I can recommend. I'm not happy to say that, but it's just the way it is. I finished reading 2 more books. The first one was Him by Sarina Bowen and Elle Kennedy, and it tells the story of Jamie and Ryan, who are both hockey players, and years back they used to be best friends. They would meet each summer at a summer camp, and they had the best time, and they enjoyed each other's company, and then something happened between them, and they basically haven't spoken since. Now they're both hockey players, they play for different colleges, and they meet once again, and they decide to try to rebuild their friendship, and they go to the summer camp as well, this time as trainers, and yeah, we get to see how they resolve the conflict that happened between them, and rebuild their friendship and their relationship. Actually, I really enjoyed this book. It was a fun read. I guess I'm sort of into these jog romances lately, which, yeah, well, it's not surprising, but yeah, I just made a few videos back that I was not really into romance anymore that much, but hey, here I am, you know, fighting this reading slump that is trying to devour me here. But yeah, anyways, I really enjoyed this book. I actually enjoyed it so much that I picked another book by Sarina Bowen up. And that was The Understatement of the Year, which sort of has the same premise as Him. We have 2 hockey players, John and Michael, who used to be best friends in middle school and high school, at the beginning of high school, and they were basically inseparable, and then this thing happens to them, and it affects them in different ways, and basically they haven't spoken since then, and now they become teammates on the college hockey team, and they pretend that they don't even know each other, they don't talk, there's basically no interaction between them aside from, you know, whatever the hockey demands, and slowly they start to rebuild their friendship, relationship again. It's really interesting to see, I mean, how, you know, the same event affects different people differently, and what they take from that, and how it can, yeah, it can destroy relationships, it can rebuild them, it can make them stronger, and it was a really fun book to read, and I really enjoyed it. I finished reading Like a River Glorious by Carson, which is book 2 in her Gold Seer trilogy. Book 1 was Walk on Earth a Stranger, in case you don't know that. I loved that book, but I adored this one. This was such a great sequel, and I think it's one of my favorite books that I read this year. It's definitely going to be on one of the lists. Yeah, anyways, this series is about Leah Westfall, who is a girl that has the ability to sense gold in the ground, and she's living during the gold rush, which is a very useful ability to have. And yeah, she lives with her parents on this small farm, and they're not rich or anything, they make do, but then her parents get murdered, and she believes that her ability is actually the reason behind these murders, so she decides to join her friend Jeff and go with him west. They join one of the caravans and they head west, and the first book tells the story of that travel, of what life was like on the road, I guess, and you know, what the dangers were, what just life was like, and I really enjoyed those aspects of the book. Now in the sequel, we get to see how they come to California, how they try to settle, look for gold, lay claims, and you know, build this small town, and just figure things out. And naturally, some other things happen as well. And I have a review of this book up on my channel. I will be linking it, and you know, I do not want to go too into details here, but I adore this book. Please go check this out. This series is so good. Check it out, and yeah, I just adore it so much. Finished reading Until Friday Night by Abbi Glines, which tells the story of Maggie, who is this teenage girl who has experienced this traumatic event in her past and now chooses not to speak. And at the beginning of the book, we see her move in with her aunt and uncle in this small town. And there she meets West, who is the star of the football team in that town. And he does appear to have a charmed life, but in fact, he is going through his own issues because his father is dying of cancer, and he hasn't told any of his friends about that, and is basically keeping it a secret. And they sort of connect because of their experiences. They connect and get together. It was an enjoyable read, a pretty typical young adult book. But there was one huge aspect of the book that I really didn't like, and that was the relationship. Basically, at some point when they get romantically together, West tells her that she's all he needs, and that, you know, basically he sort of uses her as a crutch, emotionally and, you know, romantically as well. But really, it's just those words, I do not need anyone else, you're all I need. You know, that really annoyed me, because I've seen people have those kinds of relationships, and I didn't think they were the healthiest, honestly. And what I actually was surprised by was that this issue was actually dealt with in the books, because Maggie tells him that she cannot be his everything. That's, you know, basically a lot of pressure from one person to be, and to someone, and they sort of resolve it. Naturally, it was resolved really fast, too fast if you ask me, but at least it was addressed, and I did appreciate that. But aside from that, I did enjoy the book. As I said, it was nothing special, a pretty typical young adult book. But yes, I had it and I read it, so yeah. So I finished reading Shadow, Bright and Burning by Jessica Clues, which is book one, and what I'm guessing is a trilogy or a series. I'm not sure because it doesn't say on Goodreads, so I have no clue what it's going to be, but it's definitely part one of something. And it tells the story of Henrietta, who's living in the 1800s during the reign of Queen Victoria. And she's living in this all-girls school, and she just turned 16, and now she's a teacher there, which I really like. How, you know, in YA you can be 16 and be a teacher or a captain of the guard or whatever function you know, would usually go to an adult, but in YA you can be anything. But yes, anyway, she has this power, and she's trying to keep it a secret because she believes that, you know, things are not going to go well for her if it comes out that she has this power. And then her friend gets into trouble, and she saves him by using this power, and you know, exposes herself. And then she's basically shipped off to London because these sorcerers that exist in this world of hers believe that she's the prophesized one, and they try to train her and basically turn her into a sorcerer, because that's what they think she is. I really enjoyed this book. It was not like the best start to a series. It's not the strongest book, and you know, definitely the writing could be a bit better. But I did enjoy it. At the beginning, though, I kind of struggled because it really reminded me of the Infernal Devices. Not that it's anything like that, but just this environment she entered in London. You know, there's this huge mansion that she's living in, and there's a library, and there's this room where they learn how to, training room basically, and there's a bunch of guys living there, and she's the only girl, and all, you know, a few of these guys, if you combine them, there would be sort of a Will Herondale, but not Will Herondale, like, you know, not the real Will Herondale. So that kind of annoyed me at first. Actually, I was looking, what? I'm not gonna read this. I've read this already. But then it got better. I really like this world where there's this division between sorcerers, magicians, and witches. It definitely intrigued me, and it has piqued my interest. So I will probably be, picking the next book in the series up when it comes out. I had a few issues with Henrietta herself, especially in her romance department, because she was like, oh, 1 minute she was into this guy, and then he did something and she was into the other guy, and it kept switching on and off, and I was like, come on, make up your mind. But yeah, aside from that, I really enjoyed it. As I mentioned, it's not like the best book out there, but it did pique my interest enough that I want to see more of this world, more of these characters. There are definitely a few threats that were not, that were like hinted at, a few things, and I want to see how they turn out in the next books. So yeah, I really liked it. I finished reading Salmon versus the Homo sapiens agenda by Becky Albertalli, which tells the story of Salmon, who is a gay teenage boy, and he's corresponding via email with another boy. They do not know each other's identities, but Salmon is really into this guy, and he does know that they go to the same school, so he's always sort of checking out, who might that boy be. And what happens is that one of his classmates accidentally stumbles across their correspondence, and then more or less blackmails Salmon into doing him this favor, and and in exchange he will not expose these emails, which Salmon is really not happy about the situation, but he is worried that Blue, this guy that he's corresponding with, will stop writing him if it comes out that Salmon is gay, and if those emails come out, basically. So I'm not gonna go more into the story because it's such a great book and it's such a great story that you should definitely read it. I actually cannot I understand why I kept putting this book off, because it's such a great read. It's the writing was really fun and enjoyable. It was really easy to get into. I really loved reading the emails between the two boys, and Salmon as a character is just perfect. He is he's an optimistic guy. He's very positive and has this great attitude towards life. He is not that afraid to come out, but he believes that his family would be okay with it. He does expect that when he comes out, there's going to be a bit of problems with some of his classmates, because some kids just cannot deal with that and have to be a bit of bullies, and yeah, but and throughout the book we see him, even when the situation is not the best, he sort of has a bit of a dark time and rough time of it, but he does really great. He handles it really well, and I really loved him, and the rest of the cast as well. I just Blue is such a great boy as well, and I actually more or less figured out who it was. I don't think it's that hard to figure out, actually, and I'm really happy because I was hoping that's gonna be who Blue is, and I really enjoyed it. I really cannot recommend it more. I would classify it actually as sort of a YA romance, and it's such a fun read. I just have it in e-format, and I will definitely be buying a paperback version of it because I really loved it, and I have to have it. And yeah, I cannot wait to do that, and I will probably be rereading it because it's such a, I don't know, whenever I feel like when I'm gonna be in a bad mood or something like that, this book is just so enjoyable, and you cannot be in a bad mood and read this book. It just it just doesn't go together. So yeah, I cannot recommend it more. I read More Happy Than Not by Silvera, and this is a story of Erin, who lives with his mother and brother in this tiny apartment. And while he's been having a really hard time lately, his father killed himself, and soon afterwards Erin tried to do the same, and now he's doing his best to just get through his life and try to figure things out as he does that. He has this girlfriend that he really likes, and a job, and school is over, so now he has more time, and he spends a lot of that time with this new guy that he just met called Thomas. And soon afterwards things start to unravel again, and I think that's basically all I can tell you, because if I try to tell you any bit more, I'm just going to be spoiling this book, and it's a really hard book to summarize, because there's so many twists and turns in this story that you expect things to go one way, but you end up somewhere completely different. And it really surprised me a lot. I wasn't the hugest fan of the writing style, and at the beginning I had a bit of a hard time, getting into the book. But afterwards, it really got me curious what was happening, and really, it's a great book to read. I would definitely recommend it, despite the fact that it's not one of my favorites. But still, it's so surprising and so inventive, I would say, and it deals with a really interesting topic, and I think that it's a topic that we all have, dealt with before. Sadly, I cannot talk about it here because it's spoilers. So yeah, what can I tell you? Erin as a character was pretty complex. He had a lot of issues to deal with, and he was not handling them always in the best way, which is why all these plots and twists happened later on in the story. The rest of the cast was well, they were pretty supportive, at least most of them, of what was happening with him. Maybe too supportive. Maybe, I think that they should have helped him try to figure things out in a different way. Yeah, definitely, because spoilers again, sorry. But yeah, I definitely recommend this book. It's definitely different than I expected, because after reading Salmon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, I expected sort of this book to be similar in a way, and it's not. It's nothing like that. It's definitely not as lighthearted. It's a lot. It's really different. So yeah, I really recommend it, and pick it up. I mean, it's pretty much unlike anything I've read before. So if nothing else, you should read it because of that. I finished reading The Soldier Scoundrel by Sebastien. This is a gay Regency romance novel, and I've never read any of those before, so this was a fun experience. It tells the story of Jack Turner, who used to, live in the London slums. He grew up there, and he was, a petty criminal. But now that he has, that he's an adult, he is actually has this agency that helps less fortunate ones when they have problems, and he helps them deal with those problems. And he really doesn't like nobility, especially noblemen. He does help ladies and all that, but he really doesn't like noblemen at all. And then Oliver Rivington comes into his office. He used to be a soldier but got wounded, and now he's basically just a gentleman trying to figure out what to do with his life. And he realized that his sister went to Jack, looking for help, and he is not pleased with that because he's afraid that Jack, ripped her off. And these guys clash, and they really do not care for one another. But then on this next case that Jack is working on, they sort of connect, and the story picks up from there. It was a really enjoyable read, easy to get into, and just a fast read just in general. And I really liked it, and I cannot wait for the next of her books to come out. I finished reading Out of Bounds by R.S. Gray. This is a romance novel, and the main protagonist is called Bree, and she's a gymnast, and she's actually on the U.S. National team going to Rio. And just before they, really close to the Olympics, their coach, I'm not entirely sure what happens to him, but they have to switch coaches, and Eric Winter becomes their coach, the team coach, and they have to, basically the girls move into his compound where he has a gym, and, they live there. And, Eric and Bree really are pretty antagonistic. They do not like each other. They find each other attractive, but character-wise, they really do not like each other. And naturally, throughout the book, they get together. Parts of this book I really liked, and parts of it I really didn't. I sort of liked the beginning, but then I just didn't feel that their relationship was a healthy one, and I really stopped enjoying the book after that. And there were also the parts about the training, which, look, I've never trained in any kind of sport in my life, and definitely not on the Olympic level. So, I might be completely off base here, but the descriptions of the training just didn't feel real to me and realistic, honestly. Clearly, I have no clue you know, the author did the research or not, but it just didn't feel right to me, and it kept me, you know, it just distracted me from the story, and I really didn't like it that much. And so it's definitely not one of my favorite reads of this month at all. But yeah, well, on to the next one. The last book that I read in November is Rook by Sharon Cameron. Now, this book I have been eyeing for a while, but I never picked up a physical copy. But a few months back, or maybe even a year or so, a while back anyways, it was pretty cheap on, you know, daily Kindle deals, and I decided to get it, and I finally got around to reading it. It tells the story of the Scarlet Pimpernel. It's sort of a retelling of Scarlet Pimpernel, which when I was a kid, I actually watched a movie of, and I really liked it. It had this really cute song in it. You know, they seek him here, they seek him there. Those Frenchies seek him everywhere, which it's probably not complete, but that's what I remember from the movie. And the movie is about, it happens during the French Revolution, and there's this British guy that is saving well, French nobility, I would guess, from, you know, prisons before they head to the guillotine and are beheaded. And the French are trying to find him and naturally capture him. And this story is basically the same as that. It's not happening during the French Revolution, but the premise of the story is the same, and I'm not gonna go too deep into it because, you know, I don't want to spoil it for you. There's a bit of a romance in there, a potential love triangle, but really one side of the triangle is really completely one-sided, so it's not really. But yeah, it was an enjoyable read. It was not the fastest read. Some parts of it were really slow. Sophia as a character was really quite enjoyable, as were all of the guys. There's a lot of twists and turns, and actually you cannot be completely sure who to trust until the very end. And it was not one of my favorite books of this year, for sure, but it was really enjoyable. And actually, I definitely want to pick up now The Forgetting by Sharon Cameron as well, because that one has a really interesting premise. And yeah, since I like this one, I figured I would like that one as well. So those were all the books that I managed to read in November. As I told you at the beginning of the video, it was pretty chaotic, but all in all, it's I cannot complain too much because, you know, I did find my favorites, and that's always good. But yes, let's hope, well, December, that might be a bit better. I don't know, we'll see. I don't expect to read much, and I will definitely not be posting a TBR because, come on, who am I kidding, right? But yeah, we'll see what happens, and maybe I'll surprise you, and well, myself especially. Thank you for watching this video, and see you guys in my next one. Bye!